Hey everybody, and welcome to my channel. My name is Kutsai Chaka. I am your host, presenter, whatever word you like to use, and I love to share information with you about compliance risk management. If you're new here, if you just come across this channel and you're someone who's interested in the compliance space, be sure to click on the subscribe button and check out all the videos I've done to date and subscribe so that you see all the new stuff that I have coming up for you, which gives you insights and a lot of learning around the subject of compliance risk management. So, what are we going to be talking about today? Today, I'm going to be talking to you about a compliance risk management framework versus a compliance program. I often receive this question around how do I design a compliance risk management framework? What is a compliance risk management framework? What's supposed to be in it? And how does it work with a compliance program? Are they the same thing? So to answer your question, I've decided to create this video so that it gives you a whole lot more clarity around these two concepts and what it actually entails when you're going to be creating a compliance framework. But before I jump into the video, how do you like my t-shirt? Compliance mastermind. I like to think about all us compliance risk management experts and enthusiasts who love the subject matter and want to learn as compliance masterminds. So I made this t-shirt last year, I think it is, and I decided to wear it today and share it with you, just so that you can also think of yourself as a compliance mastermind. Now, with that being said, let's jump straight into the topic. So, what is a compliance framework? Now, I've written down this definition that I've created for you, and I don't want to get it wrong or mix up some words, so I'm going to read it to you. A compliance framework establishes a system for managing compliance risk and ensuring we operate in accordance with the laws, regulations, and applicable standards. It sets out the organization's commitment and approach to compliance. So this is your overarching document where the organization is sitting down and saying, we are an organization that is regulated in terms of various laws and regulations. What is going to be our approach? How committed are we? And we're going to document this in our compliance framework. So it's the overarching documentation. And with respect to your compliance program, that sits within your compliance framework. Don't worry, I'm going to describe it in a little bit more detail, so stay with me. So when we're talking about a compliance framework, it's going to set out the commitment at a board level. Like, how committed are we to compliance? What are we going to be putting in place? What are our roles and responsibilities as the board with respect to ensuring that this organization that we are responsible for is managing its compliance risk and operating within the laws and regulations that apply to it. So essentially, the first thing that a compliance framework has to do is to set out that commitment at a board level and document what their roles and responsibilities are with respect to oversight. So it's very important that that is in there. It's also going to set out things like the compliance culture. What is the tone from the top that they are setting in terms of their expectations of all the employees, the management level, with respect to complying with regulations? And this is something that's also going to be put in the form of your code of conduct or code of ethics. These are our expectations as a board for all employees, all levels of management, right from the top, right to the lowest level of employee, in terms of complying with laws and regulations and conducting yourself in a way that has integrity at the heart of it, that is ethical, and takes into consideration all the principles that the organization and values that the organizations wants to operate under. So your code of conduct will be part of your framework that really stipulates and outlines, the culture of the organization, as well as, like I've already mentioned, at the board level, your framework is going to then also set out what is the board commitment and language and tone in terms of the compliance culture and expectations for the organization as a whole. So the next thing that your framework is going to set out is also at a leadership in terms of your executive management. What are their roles and responsibilities with respect to compliance risk management? So we all know that at a management level, your exco, we're now talking more about the day-to-day running. So what is the expectation of the board in terms of compliance risk management day to day by management? How are they operationalizing, the obligations that they have to meet? What control environment are they ensuring is in place in the operations of the business? If there are any issues that come out, what is the expectation around remediating that? So it's a statement about the roles and responsibilities of the board, the roles and responsibilities of the leadership and day-to-day managers within the organization. What is the culture that we're expecting as we stipulated in our code of conduct and ethics in the organization? So really you're establishing that high-level framework of this is our commitment as an organization from a board level, from a management level. This is our expectation of employees, all around how compliance risk management is going to be dealt with and managed. And then it's also going to set up the compliance function itself within that framework. So as a board, we are saying that we are establishing a compliance function. What are the reporting lines within the compliance function? How do we ensure its independence? What is the structure of the function? Are we going to have a chief compliance officer or a head of compliance? So it really is the document that embodies the function of compliance and stipulates how it's supposed to operate, how it's empowered, access to the board level from a reporting perspective, the reporting that we're going to do to the management level as well. And critical piece is ensuring the independence and status of the compliance function. You don't want a compliance function that's established and has no power, no authority, no respect in the organization. So within your compliance framework, you are really going to be outlining the status and independence of the compliance function to ensure that that function, the head of compliance who's appointed, or the chief compliance officer who's appointed, or the MLRO who's appointed, whatever the different roles that are stipulated, that they are adequately empowered to do their jobs effectively. So right now we've talked about board oversight, management roles and responsibility, the setting up of the compliance function, its status, influence, and responsibilities, and things like appointing your head of compliance. All of that is going to be contained in your compliance framework. What else is going to be contained in your compliance framework? Well, your compliance program. This framework is going to detail the compliance program that's going to be followed in order to make sure that we are effectively managing risk and working with the business as a compliance function. What is it that we're going to put in place? What is it that we're going to be doing? Your compliance program is made up of your policies and your procedures. So your framework is going to outline what your program is going to contain. Your policies and procedures. So let's say you'll detail that there'll be an AML policy, and that AML policy will form part of your framework. Your complaints handling policy, your conflicts of interest handling policy. Any policy that you're going to have that's a compliance policy is going to form part of your compliance program and sit under the umbrella of your compliance framework. And then the procedures that are attached to those policies, because remember, policies are different from procedures. Your policy is a statement of what you're going to be doing, the risk appetite that the board has agreed to for that specific area or subject matter. And then your procedures are how those commitments and statements that are in your policy are really operationalized. I'll give you an example. From an AML perspective, you will say in your policy, we will do suspicious transaction monitoring. Your procedures are then going to detail how that transaction monitoring is going to actually on the ground be conducted. So your framework is going to contain your program, and your program stipulates the policies and the procedures that you are going to have in place. Your program is also going to talk to things like your compliance training. What is the training program that we are putting in place to make sure that staff, employees, third-party providers, anyone that is involved in our operations, whether it's internal or we've outsourced processes to them, how are they adequately trained and made aware of the risks that apply to our business, and make sure that they're effectively managing those risks, and what subjects need to be covered in the training, who are the target audiences for training, because there's some training, like your code of conduct, for example, that will be received by everybody. And then there's some training for some subject matters that is applicable to some people and not applicable to others. So your training program is going to be outlining all of those things in terms of, as a risk management tool. Who needs to be trained? What do they need to train on? How frequently are we going to train them? So policies and procedures, compliance training. And then your compliance program also contains your CRMP, your compliance risk management processes. And we're talking about the risk assessment. How are we going to identify our risks? How are we going to analyze our risks? And remember, the board has stipulated what their appetite is in terms of risk in the various policies. So as you identify and assess your risk and put in place mitigating controls and monitor your risks, you're going to always have in mind the risk appetite of the business, as well as obviously the regulatory expectations. So your CRMP forms part of your overall compliance program, which contains your policies and procedures, your training information, your code of conduct that has set up the overall culture and expectations for the business, and then you've got your CRMP as well. So your compliance program is those four things that I've just mentioned that sit and work together in terms of how are we going to be managing risk and educating our employees, giving them information in terms of policies, what procedures are we putting in place, and how are we identifying, analyzing, monitoring, and managing our risks. That's your compliance program. Your compliance program sits within your overall framework, which details board oversight roles and responsibilities, leadership roles and responsibilities, the establishment of the compliance function, and your compliance program in that framework. So remember, your compliance framework is the management system that has been established in terms of how we are going to ensure, as an overall organization, from your board level to down to your lowest level employee, how are we managing compliance risk? What system are we putting in place throughout the organization to make sure that risk is being effectively managed? I hope you guys truly understand now the difference between a compliance framework and a compliance program, how one actually sits within the other, and then how you're going to kind of roll them out in the organization. And remember, both of these documents are living documents. You don't just create a framework and file it, create a program and file it. You constantly have to be looking at it and adjusting it in response to the operating environment in which your business, well, not only operating environment, operating and regulatory environment in which your organization operates. Right. I hope that was a super helpful video, guys. Let me know in the comments if you've got any further questions, comments about this, if you've got other thoughts that you'd like to share with myself and the rest of the audience on this channel around a compliance risk management framework versus a compliance program, because those two concepts kind of sometimes get used interchangeably, mixed up, misunderstood. So I'm pretty sure that you guys should have a lot more clarity after watching this video. Okay. I look forward to sharing new videos with you very, very soon. Lots of content floating around in my head, as I always say. But please do also share in the comments if there's something specific that you would like me to address on this channel. I would love to make videos that actually cater to the areas of information that you are curious about. Okay, so until the next video, everybody, bye.